Hello and welcome to Ag Wisdom Wednesday. My name is Wayne Key with the UT Extension Office here in Putnam County, Tennessee. And we want to talk to you today about some things related to heat stress. It's very warm, it's very hot outside, temperatures close to 100 degrees, lots of humidity. And so we definitely want to talk about the stresses, the signs, the symptoms, and things that we can do in our gardens and in our ornamental plantings. So if you'll go with me here, we're going to walk just a little bit down through our vegetable garden and point out some signs and symptoms and some things that you can see possibly related not only in your garden, but in a neighbor's garden or plantings or somewhat close to you. It's warm outside, it's really hot and humid this week. One of the things I noticed out here this morning was this tomato plant. We've started to see a little bit of signs of some stress. We see some discoloration, for example. We see some of the leaves that begin to curl, and curling is one of the first initial signs we begin to see when it comes to heat stress in plants. We notice this pepper plant, for example, and a couple of these next to it, certainly showing signs of leaf roll or cupping. The leaves will begin to roll on these plants because it provides a water holding capacity or water holding capability of the plant when it closes off its stomata, which is the air and oxygen respiration part of the plant. So it closes those off, the leaf will curl and trying to hope and maintain what little bit of water that there is inside the plant itself. We'll notice some dry leaf edges on some plants. We'll see possibly blossom or fruit drop even on a lot of plants. So fruit will begin to drop, blossoms will drop, and that's the reception of the plant, the fight receptor trying to help the plant be as productive as possible without using a lot of energy in the reproductive phase. We'll see sun scald on some plants. You'll see leaves that'll begin to brown or show sun scald, and that's certainly a possibility or a sign that we'll see. The most common that we see in tomatoes is something called blossom end rot. And blossom end rot is a factor that's caused when the soil dries out around plants and they're not able to take up the correct amount of calcium from the soil. So something to think about there. We can certainly provide different help mechanisms or ways to help our plants in our gardens throughout the growing season. Watering is the most common, of course. Early morning watering is the best. That allows the plants to take up the nutrients and what it needs in the morning time of the hours when it's cool, and it's also, of course, cooler on you to get outside and allow the plants to get as much water as possible. Make sure that on plantings you're doing a slow, deep cycle of watering so that water is getting deep into the plants and getting deep down into the soil and root zone. Make sure we use mulch. You notice in these plant beds we've got some mulch located, between the rows for our weed resistance or weed mat, I guess you'd say. We've got some mulch around the plants to hold moisture. It's also a good idea if you're able to, even some type of temporary shade. If you can provide shade over the plants, even with an umbrella or something for part of the day to help reduce the amount of sunlight on the plants during the heat of the day, remove that shade cloth or umbrella when you want that plant to get some sunlight later in the afternoon. Be sure too this time of year don't plant or transplant plants. If it's really, really hot like it is, we don't want to be taking plants and trying to remove them from the place that they're in and shock them with a new warmer spot or into soil that's too hot and could burn the roots. Be sure not to prune this time of year, whether it's fruit trees or ornamentals. This is not a good time to be pruning this time of year, so do not prune. Also, a lot of people ask me about fertilizing. We don't really recommend fertilizing this time of year because it causes the plant to produce a lot of new cell growth and a lot of new tissue, and that new tissue can certainly be burnt and scalded by the sun. Also, don't apply chemicals. We get a lot of heat and a lot of sun. We can cause a burning effect or a phototoxicity effect on the plants themselves by using a chemical. Make sure if we're able to and you got weeds in the garden, pull those. Any type of weeds that we have can cause competition for water and for moisture in our plants. So if we can pull weeds and get them out of the garden, that is certainly a good idea and certainly a good thing to use. Here at the office, we've used a few simple things like some drip tape and some connectors to a garden hose. So we can turn that on and allow that not to overhead water the plants and get them too much moisture on the leaves to either cause sun scald or burning or to cause an introduction of diseases and problems to the plant throughout the growing season. So some drip tape works well, soaker hose, anything like that you can use to get moisture into the ground, onto the plants during the hot time of the year and when the temperatures are hot will certainly be a good idea. I hope you've enjoyed this session of Ag Wisdom Wednesday. My name is Wayne Key. We'll see you next week.